Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in. Happy Friday. So excited that you are here with us. Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you for the next 2 hours, breaking down all the news which is a lot. We've got a lot to talk about from yesterday, Adam. Breaking down that news, going through draft strategies. We're talking ADP battles. It's going to be a great day, and you all made it almost to the weekend. How you doing, Adam? How's it going?
Yeah, doing well. It is now August 1st, so we made it. We're here in
Oh,
August.
yeah.
Huge draft month. I mean, a lot of
Draft
people
season.
have already been drafting, but some people might just be waking up and be like, oh, it's August. Yeah, maybe it's time to get my fantasy football team drafts ready.
It's time to lock in, everyone. I think everyone knows that if they've been listening to us, but make sure, you can call in. You can send us a message over there on X at KValenzuela17 at Adam Ronis. We'll open the phone lines here in a little bit as well and answer any of your questions. But yeah, Adam, it's time to lock in. You're doing a draft tomorrow. Not only a draft, but you're broadcasting. That'll be fun. The Flex League.
Yeah, hopefully, Ani brings me breakfast
Ah,
before
got it.
because it's going to be a long day. But yeah, I'll be drafting in the first draft, 11 a.m. Eastern. That is a flex league, half point PPR, one quarterback. And then right after at 1 p.m. Eastern will be the flex draft, super flex league, which I'll be broadcasting right here on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Jeff Ratcliffe will do the first one
Nice.
at 11 a.m. Eastern. So we'll have you covered. We'll go through all the strategies, the roster builds, and yeah, a lot of people playing super flex leagues. I was in that super flex league draft for the last, I don't know, 6, 7 years, but
Now, I think you're sad that you're not in that one this
yeah,
year.
I do like doing it.
Yeah.
It's
Is that your preferred scoring settings or
no,
no?
it's definitely not. I prefer a 12-team league PPR. Three receivers, two
Hmm.
flex spots. That's what I
Got
like. I
it.
like the two flex spots. I like a deeper starting lineup because I feel, especially you guys listening, if you're on fantasylife.com, you guys have an advantage. You know the player pool very well. So a larger starting lineup is more beneficial to you instead of making those tough lineup decisions every week where you have so much talent trying to
Yeah.
figure out who to start. It's better when you have that extra flex spot so you can start that player. So that's the preferred. But I do enjoy the super flex league. It's a little different. We know the strategies change a little bit. Some people go real early on the quarterbacks, as you found out in your draft the other day when someone
Okay.
took three in the first 7 rounds. I don't think you'll see that tomorrow, but I
I
do think you will see someone take a third quarterback, possibly in round 9, or maybe round 8.
okay.
Usually it's because maybe they miss out on the elite and they get two middle guys and they go, I need a third just in case because I waited too long on the quarterback. Or some people just like to have that insurance. And then others will take one early and wait. So there's no set way to do it, but you do have to kind of play the draft room and see. It helps when you're picking in the middle to kind of see how that pans
Yes.
out. If you're picking early, you have to make that decision. Am I going elite quarterback or I'm passing? So yeah, it's fun. It makes the draft interesting.
Yeah, I think that's the best. I was saying a couple days ago how I was in that draft and I said, "Oh, I could wait one more round to get my second quarterback because everyone ahead of me already had their second." But no, they went ahead and got their third and I think that's the best, one of the best things that we tell everyone too is just, "Hey, you just got to play with the draft room. You can have a plan, but just be prepared to abandon that plan pretty quickly." And that's what happened to me. Got to a Tagovailoa, but I made sure, Adam, because I got to come back around and I took that third quarterback right away. So I had to go back to back quarterbacks just to make sure I was in a good spot because we all know Tua unfortunately has suffered with those concussions. You don't know if you're going to get that full season out of him necessarily. So yeah, it's not the best, but it's a risk I was willing to take. And I lost. Gambled and I lost, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's going to happen sometimes. And what you hope is that when you pass on those quarterbacks, those skill position players that you drafted hit. If they all pan out,
Exactly.
then you don't need much from your second quarterback. Or again, there are going to be quarterbacks that emerge off the waiver wire. It happens every single year.
Yep, and I'm excited to see which I because you're in the one QB like you said in this
Yeah.
draft tomorrow. So I'm excited. I actually don't have yeah, I'm excited. I have some guys that I think you're going to target. I won't say them out loud on the air just so we don't jinx it, but I have a couple ideas of who
I
I
have
think
the
you're going to try
third
and
pick
target.
in the draft.
Ooh.
So
Okay. That's not a bad spot though.
I don't really love it for the second and third round this year. I actually think the back end of the draft is a good spot to be in. From what I've done so far, you're going to get two really good players, and I just feel there's a drop off after like the mid second round. So that second, third round is going to be key.
Yeah. You just want to pass like you did last year?
Yeah, I
You
do.
said,
Yeah,
actually, I
just
don't want
pass.
to. I think it was the second round. You said the same thing last year. You said, actually, I don't like any of these guys. So I'm going to pass and go to the third. But
And there was
I
a lot
could
of
see what you're saying.
landmines
Yeah,
last
I
year.
could see what you're saying. Yeah, I drafted at least two of them with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Chris Olave. So
Yeah.
brutal. It's not going to be like that this season, Adam, though. We're not putting that out there. I could see what you mean about the end of this, the second, third round. End of the second, start of the third, you've got Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson. You can get Trey McBride. Just go for someone that you know is going to probably give you great production.
If he falls to 3-3, I think he's in the conversation.
I think
It's
he has
not
to
a
be.
build I typically like, but I would have to consider that.
What if Brock fell to you in that second round for your second
Might have to
pick?
do that too. I
Yeah.
typically don't do it, but it's a
Now's the
possibility
time.
this year.
Now's the time. Got to be bold in these leagues. We got to have something to talk about next week when you come back and tell us what your team looks like. I'm excited. So make sure everyone so that's Saturday that people can listen to
Yes.
those drafts.
Yes,
Saturday
tomorrow,
Superflex
11 a.m.
is the
Eastern
start.
and
Yeah.
1 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome. So everyone make sure you lock in, listen to Adam, listen to see let us know if you think he's gonna complain, if he's gonna like his I think you're gonna like your draft. I'm just gonna say it right now. Let's keep going here, Adam. We've got a lot of news to talk about. We'll go through the game last night, and Matthew Berry's ride or die was announced also. But first, Terry McLaurin trade request yesterday. So Washington Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin is obviously frustrated with his contract negotiations and has requested a trade. That was per Adam Schefter yesterday. It sounds like all the reports that I read is that the sides are really far apart. He held out, of course, for the first 4 days of training camp. He reported back on Sunday. So hopefully there's movement towards this new deal. But this is never a situation, Adam, where you're into August. We're just weeks away from the start of the NFL season, and your wide receiver one is requesting a trade because he wants to get paid.
Yeah, look, I understand both sides of it. And usually when this happens, you don't see the player traded, right? But
Yep.
Washington really needs McLaurin. Like he is critical to this offense. They just don't have a lot of depth at the position. So they really need him. He's coming off obviously a big season with 13 touchdown passes. You have Jaden Daniels on that rookie quarterback contract. They have money under the cap, but McLaurin does turn 30 in September. And, he wants a lot of money. I think he's asking for a little too much. I mean, he deserves to get
Really?
paid, but it is too much. And I can understand why Washington doesn't want to give a receiver that turns 30 that much money, but they also need him. And I think
Yeah.
McLaurin realizes that. He knows he's in a good spot because they need him. You look at the depth chart, there's just not much there. I mean, Debo Samuel, you hope that he's in better shape and he can bounce back after everything he endured last year. You have Noah Brown, Michael Gallup, Luke McCaffrey. So
Yeah, it's not good.
it's not. They really need him, and it is an older team that is trying to win now. I mean, you got Debo Samuel, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, so it's a tough spot. I can't see him getting traded though. I
I
just
can't either.
yeah right.
No,
It,
I'm with you. We don't usually see it. It's just
mhm.
I feel like this just shows though how far apart maybe they really are in these deals, which also isn't a good place to be. I'm with you though. I can't imagine that they trade him because you just listed off every guy in their depth chart. And if people are thinking that Debo Samuel could be a one for one for Terry McLaurin, I am just not. I'm not on board with it. I can see why you're trying to look at it that way, but I just don't think you're going to get that same production. So I look at Terry McLaurin and I say, you and I are always team pay your guys. And I look at Terry McLaurin too. He's been with this franchise through like these losing seasons. They had the federal led investigations into the team and previous owners, and they've had quarterbacks, just a carousel of quarterbacks. So it's been a lot. And then he has this season last year where, like you said, I think he was second in the NFL coming down in touchdowns. So he hasn't been specific about what he wants in that new deal, or at least we haven't heard reports. I did read something from Nikki Javala of The Athletic, that maybe he wants to earn at least 30 million per year. That kind of puts him in the, maybe potentially puts him with the same range as DK Metcalf with his new deal with the Steelers, which is an average annual value of 33 million. And she's thinking that maybe that's going to be the floor for negotiations, or at least the range that he wants to start talking at. But yeah, it's just never good news. You never want this. We're weeks away. You want him to get back out there. I think they pay him. You think 33 million is too much for Terry McLaurin?
Yeah, I think it
Okay.
is. I mean,
30?
Cortland Sutton, what he got 4 years, 92. So he said he left money on the table too.
Really?
Yeah.
For what?
What do you mean for
From the
what?
Broncos? From the
Yeah.
Broncos?
He
Wow.
said he didn't push for more money to ensure that the club could keep the roster together.
4 year, $92 million deal.
hmm
He's 29 years old. He's turning 30. When's his birthday? October 10th.
I knew it. You just
I know.
didn't let
I
me
know.
speak.
You
Come
always
on.
send him a text. I know. I'm sorry. I should have let you go. 4 year, 92 million. Wonder what that average annual value means. Yeah.
It's
I
about 2023, right?
yes, 23 million. And that puts him just, I mean, McLaurin's already there. McLaurin already has a current average right now of 22.7 million
Yeah, I mean he shouldn't be close though to
to
the
DK.
upper echelon guys. I mean DK, I mean yeah, I could see that. But I also see Washington's side of it too.
Yeah, I mean Tyreek Hill, he signed a deal worth 30 million a year in 2024. I'm just looking at guys who are older than what, 27, 28, and he's Tyreek Hill is 31. So we'll have to see. I just McLaurin's only missed what, 3 games in his career. He's got 1,000 receiving yards in each of the last 5 seasons. Pro Bowls, everything that
He
happened last season too.
and he hasn't had the best quarterbacks too. I mean,
Exactly.
and then he gets the best one and has a career high 13 touchdowns.
And that's why I always, I understand we've talked about the potential regression with him, but then sometimes I think in my head and I just say, well, what if this is just a norm now for Terry McLaurin because he has a good quarterback? Because we haven't seen it. To your point, and to probably Terry McLaurin and his camp's point, is that, we want to get paid because we just gave you this huge year last season, whereas other seasons that we had him, I mean, he was giving us what, wide receiver 31, wide receiver 25, wide receiver 38 seasons in the previous 3. That's with obviously not great quarterbacks. Then you bring in Jaden Daniels and you get a wide receiver 14 finish.
Yeah, which was obviously very good for fantasy. And, I think some people are concerned that those touchdowns will go down. And then, of course, with this news, people are going to have trepidation about drafting him. I don't think he's going to fall too far, though. Like, he'll probably go tomorrow, like, I would say round 4 would be my guess. I don't think he's going to fall too far. There will be a few people who say, yeah, I just don't want to deal with this. Who knows what's going to happen? Does this take a month and then he hasn't been practicing? And then others are going to say, yeah, it's going to get worked out. I'll take the discount. So, but a lot of those big contracts for those receivers are younger receivers. That's the issue.
Yeah.
So, and I think Washington, again, their concern is like, well, you turn 30. We don't want to pay you a ton when you could have a decline in the next year or two.
Yeah, he's going right now across the board. It's pretty, it's within 10. ADP right now on ESPN 45.7, Sleepers at 34, Yahoo's at 38, and then Underdog is 36.6 for his ADP. So is there a point, you're drafting tomorrow, so it feels like these are good questions. If you're drafting, or if anyone listening is maybe drafting in the next couple of days, like what do you do with situations like this? We're going to talk about other, potential injuries. Jauan Jennings is one we have to talk about, and others. But if you're in that draft tomorrow and Terry McLaurin's there, I know that maybe you haven't been drafting him as much anyway, but if you're in that mindset, is he someone that you say, I don't necessarily want to take the risk? Or if he falls to you, would you take him?
Yeah, if he falls to a certain spot, like I'm picking 3, so if he's there on the 4 or 5 turn, I think I would have to consider it, depending on what my build is at that point. But my guess is he'll be gone by the time it comes to me in round 4.
Yeah, I think so too. I was doing a live mock draft last night and he was gone. But we'll see. Team pay your players. That's what we're at. So hopefully it's not a month though, Adam. That
No,
would be
I mean,
awful.
as a Cowboys fan, I hope it lingers into the season.
Stop. Would you Someone clip that. Make sure it's just horrible. But Terry McLaurin we'll just have to we'll just have to keep an eye on it. That's the only thing that we can do. But you know that this is not a great situation. Hopefully that this shows that they need to move a little bit faster, get a little bit closer to a new deal for Terry McLaurin. But again, has requested a trade, and we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah,
Let's
he's not
yeah,
he's
he's
not
not
going to get
getting
traded. I
traded.
think I saw brief odds last night. I haven't checked it, but I think it was DraftKings had the odds of McLaurin's next team, and it was Washington minus 250.
Yeah, there's just we don't but that's what you said at the beginning of this. We don't usually see this play. It's just negotiations. They're saying, "Hey, we're really far apart still and we want to show how far apart we are. I'm going to show how, upset or whatever it is." And that's where we're at with Terry McLaurin. But hopefully they, like you said, bring it back together and it's going to be fine. I'm speaking this into existence. Everything's going to be fine, Adam. What were his second best team odds? What was the team that
I don't remember
I
offhand.
couldn't even hang on. Oh, I've got it right here. It has to be like the Patriots, right?
Oh, they were definitely two or three.
Okay.
They were
Yeah.
two or three. I can't remember what. Because again, I was like, yeah, this is a waste of time. And then you
I
see, oh,
see.
6 teams Terry McLaurin could be traded to. And it's like,
What are
most
we
of them
doing?
are not even going to happen. Not
Seattle
even
Seahawks, are
realistic.
they on there?
Let's see. It was Commanders minus 250, Patriots plus 450, Raiders plus 500, Titans plus 1100.
Okay, so the Patriots. That's
Yeah.
what we figured. That's what we figured. We'll keep an eye on it. It's probably not going to happen. Hopefully, they just get it figured out for all of our for our producers' sakes, like on this show. They just need this to happen. So we'll keep an eye over there on the Terry McLaurin news. Anything you want to talk about from the Hall of Fame game? I want to just give you a chance to, you know,
I mean,
30,
look, we
34-7
yeah,
win
we got to
for the
see
Chargers. We
Omarion
got to
Hampton a
see
little
Marion
bit.
Hampton.
These receivers, Tesla
Trey
for
Lance.
well,
You
Trey
want to talk
Lance.
about
He's a
Trey Lance?
preseason hero.
Completed 13 of 20, 120, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah, I mean,
Trey
preseason
Lance
he does
season.
good.
Tesla was one that's a good call out. He was he was a focal point there. Someone that Thorne Eistrom loved doing his draft stuff over the off season. So that's it. You don't want to break down this game? Are you
I don't
sure?
think we need to.
Omarion Hampton, Matthew Berry's ride or die for the season though. That's
I
pretty
saw that
big.
last night. Yeah.
I know. I was actually surprised. I didn't think he usually did rookies coming out, but I think that's a pretty big nod to Omarion Hampton again. We've talked about the Najee Harris injury and the how we just really don't have a timetable. We don't have a timeline, Adam, for his return, and still that's just not good. When, like we're saying, it's August 1st right now. We kind of have to get things figured out. So Hampton is explosive. He's got this. He could potentially have this workhorse role depending on when Najee is able to return. And in this Greg Roman offense that we know they're going to run the ball, I could see why he picked him. It's a good
Yeah,
pick.
really good offensive line. And we were worried a little bit when it first happened, like, okay, Najee Harris is there and coaches love him and the guy stays healthy.
Yep.
So you figured maybe it could be more of a split early, but I think everyone envisioned Hampton eventually taking over this backfield. But now he has an opportunity for that to come way quicker than anticipated because, again, we just don't know what the situation is with Najee Harris and this eye injury that he suffered in the fireworks incident. So Hampton has every opportunity now, and you're seeing it. He is rising up draft boards. I mean, I've seen him go in the middle of the third round recently. So
Yep.
the price is definitely skyrocketed, and he's going to have an opportunity here for a big workload unless Harris all of a sudden is back at camp and good to go. But again, the lack of details on it is definitely concerning.
The lack of details and just, I mean, it's not Najee Harris going back to the Steelers. I mean, this
Right,
is a
yeah,
whole
new
new
offense.
this is a whole new team. And it's just not only like I understand that he is a veteran now, but it makes a difference being out there and getting that chemistry with everyone, learning that playbook, being out there, getting up to NFL game speed. I know that usually most of the time they don't get up to that until week 1 when they're actually out there, but it's still really important to be out there for training camp. So that's the other part that I'm, concerned about. But middle of the third round, I'm not mad at anyone that takes Amari Hampton there. Are you, Adam? Are you avoiding him in that
Oh,
range?
no,
I
no,
mean,
no.
I see pick 33, 52 on ESPN if anyone's drafting
Yeah,
this
come
weekend on
on.
ESPN. Yahoo's 47.9
Yeah, and I think it's rising. It's only going to
for sure.
increase because, again, a lot of that kind of takes into account, drafts from previous weeks. And now, as camp has got underway and the news of Harris not being there and the lack of specifics on exactly what is going on with him and when he's going to return just increases the appetite to get Hampton on your roster. So yeah, I think in the drafts tomorrow you're going to see him. Maybe not the super flex, but in my league he'll go in the third round. I
Yeah.
think. I'm pretty sure.
I agree. I agree. All right, we're going to continue on here again. We're watching the Terry McLaurin news. We are looking for Omarion Hampton, Matthew Berry's ride or die for the 2025 season. We're going through ADP battles, wide receiver edition. We talked a little bit of running backs yesterday. Got to go through some wide receivers and seeing who we're going to pick coming up next. Oh yeah, we've got you covered right here. Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. FantasyLife.com's got you covered as well. Make sure you go over there, check out all of those new tools and upgrades that we have on the website. All of our articles are 100% free, but we've mentioned, the Best Ball Hub that is live now. If you want the Guillotine League rankings and analysis, that's over there. Draft Champion, Mock Draft Simulator. If you're unable to get into some others, make sure you are practicing a little bit before you get into those live drafts. And then, of course, the utilization suite is live as well. The comparison tool is my favorite thing that I use during the show here. But make sure you're using that code SXM20. That also gets you 20% off any Fantasy Life Plus Tier 1 or Tier 2 subscription because it's draft season, Adam. It's August 1st. It's time to lock in. That's why we're here. We're excited that everyone's here. I'm so excited.
Yeah, preparation is key. You want to have that great draft, you got to be prepared, and the more work you put in, the better results you'll have. So that's why we're here and have all the tools and everything on fantasylife.com to help you. So hopefully you already started, but there are some people that do wait a little too long, but get in now.
Every time I see ADPs on ESPN, and again, of course, it's because maybe not a lot of drafts have been done on there, but I just think, Adam, I don't know, maybe we move from CBS, we go to ESPN, because I'm looking at Travis Hunter with an ADP right now of 70. Compared to an ADP of 56 over on Underdog. And then I'm also looking at one DJ Moore, who I know we talked about a little bit earlier this week. He's got an ADP of 63 on ESPN, 43 on Underdog, just to compare. Yahoo Sleeper kind of right in the middle there, 48 and 54. Again, another good reason to just go and look at our ADP draft board to see, if you're drafting on different platforms this season, just to see the difference, because it is a little bit overwhelming when you're in a draft, Adam, and you're expecting one certain ADP or one guys to be in a certain range and they're not there, and you have to scroll just to make sure that you're in the right spot. But I wanted to go through ADP battle with this wide receiver edition. DJ Moore, Travis Hunter are very close together on Underdog. We haven't talked much about, but Travis Hunter I feel like is a guy that people are going to have a lot of questions on going into their drafts, and if they should take the leap of faith that he's going to play more on the offensive side of the ball. DJ Moore, we kind of know his first year in Chicago in 2023 was one of the most productive of his career. It didn't come back that way in 2024. We did not see that same success, unfortunately. You saw a little bit of an uptick in targets, though, so he finished as the wide receiver 19. There was a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, and overall the offense overall just wasn't great. Travis Hunter is the big question, though, Adam. How much of a split is it going to be between wide receiver, cornerback? So if you had to pick between those two, if they come up to you in a draft and both are available, who are you looking at clicking on most of the time?
Yeah, if you're comparing those two, it's DJ Moore, but I'm not out on Hunter. I think the big question with Moore is like how quickly is this offense going to get going? A lot of people believe with Ben Johnson in there that it's going to be way better, but there could be an adjustment period because with Moore last year, we saw the usage was not what we want. The efficiency wasn't there. There's a lot of short passes. He had his worst yards per reception last year,
Yep.
but obviously things have changed. But there's also more competition now for targets in this offense. So I think Moore is he's a difficult guy trying to figure out because a lot is tied to how quickly this offense ascends. There is also reports that they are looking to get him more involved in the running game as well.
Love
So
that.
they want to get him touches. So that's a good sign. But, a lot of people think Roma Dunze could break out. You got Colston Loveland, who they spent a first-round pick on, and the reports have been glowing with him. So you have the running backs out of the backfield that catch passes in this Ben Johnson offense. So that's the biggest thing here with DJ Moore is, how quickly is this offense going to grow, and does it impact Moore's target share? So like he's been a tough one for me where I kind of go back and forth on.
I took him last night and I didn't hate it, but I thought this stat from PFF was interesting because I was looking around at him and thinking, okay, what am I missing here with DJ Moore? Why am I not more in on him? But in 2024, when we're talking about targets, only 50% of his targets came on Caleb Williams' first read. And so it was kind of a reflection of how crowded and more competitive this offense in just the pass catchers. When we're talking about how crowded that wide receiver room is, you still had Keenan Allen over there. So Moore actually trailed Keenan Allen in target rate with 21.4% last season. And it's just, there's no change though. There's no crazy change this season. They went and added, like you said, Luther Burden. They've got Colston Loveland over there. But I did think that was interesting that, how crowded it looked for DJ Moore was that he was, not usually that first look for Caleb Williams. And so I look at him and it was career lows, yards per route run. Even though it was the second highest target total of his career, there just wasn't a lot of chemistry going on. And I think we saw that, and we saw that they got frustrated. Obviously, this offseason, DJ Moore's been a little bit frustrated as well. But in terms of between him and Hunter, I have taken him just a little bit more. What would be closer to you? What would be a closer situation when we're talking about comparing wide receivers? Would it be Travis Hunter, Calvin Ridley? Is that closer for you? Or is it Travis Hunter, Zay Flowers, that kind of range?
Yeah, I think Zay Flowers reigns, and I would take Hunter over him.
Are you worried at all about Travis Hunter in drafts and anything? Like, what's your best piece of advice? Because I have seen a few questions come through again at K Valenzuela 17 at Adam Ronis over there on X. If you have any questions, and the phone number to call in 888-963-2682. But what has been your advice this offseason on people asking, should I take the leap on Travis Hunter? Because we know how talented he is. There's no question about the talent. But I see people tracking, like those reporters over there at camp are tracking how many times he starts the day as a wide receiver, how many times he starts the day over on the defensive side of the ball. What's your overall thoughts on him for the season?
I think those reports mean nothing. I mean, it's training camp. We don't know exactly what they're going to do. They're probably experimenting right now. I think the biggest thing is he going to be able to handle both sides of the ball? It's different in college compared to the pros. Obviously, more physical. Now there is more downtime though in the NFL. It's less plays run, more TV timeouts. So
Mhm.
maybe some more time to rest. But again, we don't know exactly how they plan to deploy him. But I think it gets to a point in a draft where you get him as your fourth receiver. I mean, if you're talking sixth, seventh round, you could take the shot there. And if it doesn't work out or he doesn't play as much offense as we think, I don't think it's going to crush you in that area. But we also know he's a phenomenal athlete, and they have plans on using him pretty heavily after taking him with the number 2 pick.
Yeah, he ranked fifth in the FBS with 1,258 receiving yards while also earning that PFF coverage grade of a 90.3. He was so good. He had top five marks among all cornerbacks in 2024. So the talent question isn't there. If we're building our teams though, Adam, and you only have, let's say you decide, I'm looking around, you decide, hey, I actually want to go for my hero running back strategy. I'll take Jameer Gibbs in the first round. I want to take Brock Bowers in the second. I want to start running back tight end. Then you go and get a Devontae Adams. Do you recommend Travis Hunter being your second or third wide receiver? I think that's where I draw the line, where if you're drafting heavy receivers and you come through and Travis Hunter's right there, like you said, in the fifth round, depending on where you're drafting, sometimes goes early in the fourth or late in the fourth round. I'm making sure that he's not my second or even my third. I want to make sure he's my fourth just in case.
Yeah, not my second. I think though in that build, if you talk about the elite tight end, I think he's okay as your 3. It's not the ideal
Okay.
scenario, but if you're getting a Brock Bowers and you expect him to put up similar numbers to last year, then you have a major advantage there where you can be a little bit more flexible at that wide receiver 3 position. So I think he's okay in that build. Ideally, you would want it to be a 4, but it all depends on the platform you're on and how the draft evolves.
Elite tight end might be the move this season. I don't know. Little George Kittle, little Trey McBride, Brock Bowers. If there was a year, maybe it's this one.
That's what we say, and then week 4
And
we'll
then
be
all
like,
of a
"Oh, what
sudden,
happened to these guys?" Nah, it does feel like those guys. See, I think last year there was doubt with Laporta, right? There were people who were taking him who were kind of just like, "Oh," but if you looked, you knew that that was a risky pick.
Yeah, I
Like I had
you
no
knew. You
Laporta last
knew.
year.
No, I know. I actually did not. He was just so expensive. And we know that that's always going to the crossover from year to year is always going to be huge. That's what we see with the, overall 101, but he was
I'm
really
trying to remember.
expensive.
Do you remember? So the top tight ends going off the board last year were Laporta, Kelsey, right?
Uh-huh.
Kelsey was
I
Mark
can look
Andrews
it
was
up.
probably
Mark
top five.
Andrews.
Kincaid was like top five. I mean, look at Andrews. It was coming off the injury in the car accident. Kelsey was age was a factor. I mean, I did not like Kelsey at all at
Mhm.
his ADP. And Laporta was so I guess there was more. You could see a lot of the downside with the tight ends last year that were going early. So I guess we shouldn't have been shocked.
I think this was I saw this note though that last year 11 tight ends went inside the top 100 picks, and so it was 6 in the first 5. And then this year that's down to 8 in the top
Okay,
100.
so yeah, McBride must have been one of the top.
Yes.
Okay, so that was really the only one that worked out. Think about that, right? I mean, Laporta came on strong at the end, but he really hurt you in the first half of the
Week to
season.
week. Yeah, week to week, yeah.
I mean,
I think that's interesting.
Kelsey in the end, if you want to use, oh, he was sixth in fantasy points per game. Okay, fine, but I guess in the end it wasn't. No, he was taking the second, third round, so it was a bad pick.
It's kind of like the Kyler Murray conversation we have. When you look at that he finished as a QB 12, you're like, "Oh, that's okay." But as a manager of Kyler Murray, if someone that managed Kyler Murray throughout the season, you know how up and down it was. Like there were just points where you were just so frustrated. It felt the same way with Travis Kelsey.
Yeah, I just think if you the point is that you could have seen it coming with a lot of those tight ends. I think we would be very surprised if Bowers, McBride disappoint, right?
Yes, I would be. I'd even throw Kittle in there to be totally honest
Yeah,
with
no,
you at
I
this
agree on
point.
Kittle too. I mean, Kittle was a value last year. I mean, he was going sixth,
Yeah,
seventh round.
that
So,
was awesome.
but yeah,
Uh,
I mean,
bec- yeah,
I don't. Was Kelsey? I think he was for where you drafted him. He was a disappointment because he had a lot of down games.
I can see that. Yeah. And the age thing, 31 years old, George Kittle, by the way, birthday October 9th. Who did we just talk about that had a birthday in October? Cortland Sutton? Maybe?
Was it Sutton?
Harry?
Yeah, I think it was October 15th, maybe
Whoever,
something like
yeah.
that.
Oh, look at you. You remember. But the age, that's the other thing when we talk about, tight ends. When they start getting older, that's when they start to get into those prime years. Dwayne McFarland has a great article on that at fantasylife.com. So we tend to talk about the age cliff like we just did with Terry McLaurin. And we say, well, he's turning 30. It's usually 30, 31, where we start to see some decline. But with these tight ends, George Kittle last season, he was, 30 years old, 31 years old. And that's when, I mean, he had a great year. And so that's why I'm still putting him in that. Like, I still think he can really outperform his ADP this season, especially with those injuries that they've got going on. Like, we talk about it, but imagine George Kittle with 100 targets. It'd be
Yeah, I
insane.
mean maybe even get to 120 and then we're really cooking
Wow. That
if
would be
that
amazing.
happens. So I mean that's the only reason why you see Kittle slightly behind those two because as we mentioned in points per game in PPR last year, Kittle was actually one at the position. It's just Bowers and McBride are projected for so many more targets. So and also Kittle is coming off one of his most efficient seasons, and he's shown he can do it before. But I think you do have to pull back a little bit because that was insane efficiency, even for Kittle, who's
Yeah, it
done
was.
83% catch rate. His career is 73.4%. 14.2 yards per reception. Was slightly above his career average, but yeah, there was a lot of efficiency there for Kittle, which again he has done, but you would have to think that goes down a little bit, which means you do need the uptick in targets for him. And again, I'm not doubting him at all. Fine with him in round 4. It was better when you were getting him in
Mhm.
round 5, but obviously the price has gone up a little bit. But yeah, the difference is with these tight ends going early is they're younger and they project for a lot of targets, Bowers and McBride. Whereas last year, if you look at those tight ends that were taken off the board, you could easily see things going wrong. And I think there were people obviously who just overlooked it.
Yeah, and I think drafters are know that this season because of that stat that I said. So they're kind of pulling away from drafting making those early tight end investments unless they're the elite guys. It's George Kittle, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, because of the bust that happened in the mid round that last season. So when you look at it, you're like, okay, I'm either gonna get this elite guy or I'm gonna wait, and that's what we've seen this because, like I said, this year 8 in the top 100, as opposed to last season when it was 11 tight ends going in the top 100. So waiting a little bit. I'll tell you though, the projections, the target projections, Trey McBride at 129, Brock Bowers at 129, Travis Kelsey coming in 115, David Njoku 110, Evan Ingram 104, George Kittle, like we knew that he hasn't gotten up there, but he's still at 90. So that's what you look at with these tight ends, but that's why Trey McBride, Brock Bowers are always going to be up there and ahead. We're going to continue on. We're talking through running back tiers, do a little draft or pass, see who we like going into this season. We're going to do that coming up next. Best friends. And this actually isn't even referring to you and I, Adam. It's you and Ani.
I know,
Producer
with that
Ani.
terrible editing, which you can tell is not
It sounds
even
great. It
close
sounds
to what I
exactly
said.
like
I
you.
would
It
never
sounds
utter those words.
It's obviously unedited. It's straight from your mouth. And that's how you I wish people could hear you guys bicker in the background during commercials. It's just a pastime unlike any other.
And we get to do it in person tomorrow.
Fantastic. I think you guys should go live or something. Go live on, TikTok or whatever it is so we can see the chemistry and everything. You guys need help.
Yeah, we do.
Seek help. That's what you guys need. I don't know what else to say besides that. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you right here, Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. We're going through Draft or Pass running back edition here, presented by Premier National Sports. So if you know someone or have a high school athlete looking to take their game to the next level, make sure you contact Premier National Sports because they are the team to help you through the entire process. They've got personalized recruiting strategies, NIL education, everything you need for a trusted recruiting and NIL resource for high school athletes and their families. Make sure you check out premiernationalsports.com. Let me throw you David Montgomery. Draft or pass in this range. We've talked a lot about Jahmyr Gibbs, but I want to make sure that we're talking with his partner. What is it? Sonic and Knuckles. 71 ADP right now on Underdog of 71. Sleeper, more expensive, going at pick 55. ESPN's going at pick 70. In that range, and with the expectations, there's high expectations for Jahmyr Gibbs. Are you drafting or passing on David Montgomery this season?
So far, I have been passing, and it's just a new coaching staff, the potential for Gibbs to get more touches, maybe scale back Montgomery. He's very dependent on volume and those goal line carries. He does catch the ball a little bit, but I think we saw it towards the end of last season. We all knew how good Jahmyr Gibbs was, but those games without Montgomery, and they might be in a situation this year where they need a little bit more offense. Also, let's not forget the offensive line was downgraded, and
Yeah.
Gibbs can overcome that more than Montgomery. I think he needs obviously the better blocking. So everyone looks at what they've done the last few years, and the argument's gonna be, well, Montgomery does this every single year. I think it could change this year. The only thing that would, if Gibbs were to be down with an injury and you had Montgomery, then yeah, you're feeling pretty good about that. But based on this price, I'm gonna be passing on Montgomery.
Yeah, I've actually not taken as much as I thought I have either. And I guess that's me saying that I'm in the same situation. I love drafting Jahmyr Gibbs in that first round. If I'm there, he's someone that I just say, okay, that's one of the guys where we've talked about how we like to build our teams. And if I'm going with that hero RB approach and Jahmyr Gibbs is around, again, you have to have, it depends on where you're picking. But to me, Jahmyr Gibbs is that guy. And we've saw it historically with players like Jahmyr Gibbs. Montgomery is good, but Gibbs is that game changer, right? Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be that guy that has that larger workload, and that is well within the range of outcomes that we've seen from last season going into this year, like you said, with the new coaching staff. So I'm looking at Gibbs and saying I think he could lead a lot of people to a fantasy championship this season. And that's not a knock on David Montgomery because he's given us 14.8, 15.7 points per game in 2 seasons in Detroit. But we know he's not the explosive runner and everything like that. He's got, pass catching. We can talk about that in his game. But yeah, I've been going with more Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs this season.
Yeah, and obviously you need a top 3, top 4 pick to get him.
Obviously.
But even when you don't have Gibbs, I just don't find myself clicking on Montgomery, who is very touchdown dependent. And yes, it's worked out very well in his first 2 years in Detroit, 25 rushing touchdowns in 28 games. But if that does decrease, then it hurts him. I mean, he did catch 36 passes last year, but only 16 2 years ago. So maybe somewhere more in the middle. So yeah, I think the role's going to change just a little bit. I think you'll see Gibbs get a little bit more of the touches in this backfield.
And that's the role that that's the role that David Montgomery's had, where we said at any time that could change. And when it does, it's going to be, he's still going to be a solid running back, but that's more an RB3 who needs a really good set of circumstances. Not good for us in fantasy, because that would really be a Jahmyr Gibbs injury. And we don't draft that way. When we talk about running backs later, when we say, hey, here's this handcuff guy, we want to get just in case he's able to climb up the depth chart. It's very different, because the price that you're paying for David Montgomery is not the same price that you're paying for let's say Braylon Allen. So that's
Yo,
the
you're
that's
counting
the
on
key.
Montgomery. Where you're drafting
Yeah,
him, you're counting
yeah,
him to be an
that's the key
important part of your
difference.
fantasy team.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So again, David Montgomery is going, depending again on where you draft, but that is sixth round with an ADP around 71. So there is a huge, I will say there is a drop off to me after that range in the sixth, because you go from Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey, down to Isaiah Pacheco, Joe Mixon, who is going to continue to fall, Jalen Warren. That's the range that you get to. So after that sixth round, with those prices, the drop off in talent and production is a little bit more eye opening to me in that range. We're going to continue on. I've got a couple more running backs that I want to talk to you, draft or pass edition. We're going to go through that next. Continuing on with draft or pass ADP edition, we're looking at the running backs, Adam, and looking through. First of all, also you guys need to go to like friendship counseling, you and Ani. I don't know what's going on, but you need to figure it out.
Yeah, he has issues. I agree with you.
The commercial breaks are supposed to be our zen time. We're just recalculating what we're going to talk about. You guys are fighting, yelling. I need to fix that. Anyway, draft or pass.
Yeah,
Looking
let's
through
do it.
ADPs. Looking through ADPs. Running back edition presented here by Premier National Sports. Again, premiernationalsports.com. They are a trusted recruiting and NIL resource for high school athletes and their families. So make sure you go and check out their team and get in touch with them at premiernationalsports.com. More rapid fire here. Let me see where you're at with Brian Robinson Jr. and your expectations for him. We already talked about how Terry McLaurin, we're going to wait on that situation. But Brian Robinson Jr. right now going around the eighth round at that turn. So other guys in his range, Jordan Mason, Travis Etienne, Jalen Warren. Are you looking at drafting or passing Brian Robinson Jr. this season?
Yeah, I'm looking to pass on him. Just doesn't really bring much. Touchdown reliant. Doesn't catch a ton of passes. I like the other running backs in that range. So I haven't drafted him in any league. How about you?
No, I actually haven't. And I don't say actually, I didn't take him much last season either. I just haven't taken much of this Commander's backfield. He's obviously he's the favorite to lead the team in carries, and there is a situation where if he does run hot, he could, get in. We can talk about touchdowns and projections like that. But I think that's his primary path, right?
Yeah,
Is
just
just that.
not enough work in the passing game.
Yeah.
20 receptions last year. You got Austin Eckler there. So that's the biggest issue with him is just not enough work, especially if you're playing in full point PPR or half point PPR.
Tony Pollard, draft or pass. I've actually been passing on Pollard more times than not this season. Last year was a totally different story. He gave us 13.1, 12.7 points per game the last two seasons. So for your fantasy teams, especially last year, like he was a nice, if you go zero RB, later round running back to take. But I've found myself out him drafting more Tajay Spears this season and thinking that with the age, I know they both dealt with injuries, but I'm thinking I really like the price more on the counterpart there in Tajay Spears in the backfield. What do you think?
I agree with that sentiment, and I have drafted a lot of Tajay Spears, but I still am open to drafting Pollard as well. I actually think both could be useful. You really probably are going to need one to miss time to really get the full fantasy value out of either one, but look at where we're drafting them. You're not paying much. So I think Pollard will probably be the lead back to start, but they might cut down on his workload a little bit. He battled injuries last year. He played through them. He missed a lot of practice. So there were weeks that you were very happy you started him and other weeks where it didn't go as well. It was also behind a really bad offensive line. They should be better there. Cam Ward comes in. But yeah, Spears, in some platforms too, it's insane how late he goes. Like,
Oh yeah. Even on
yeah,
Underdog, I'm shocked at how because on Underdog, he's going in the 11th round.
yeah, even in the DraftKings best ball too, he's going double digit rounds. So like to
Um,
me, that's one of the easy
wow.
clicks there.
ESPN. Again, another reason, Adam. We got to go over there. Pick 141 for Tajay Spears.
Yeah, that's and look, he's he probably will need Pollard to miss some time, but he's a good guy to have because we know that when he gets that opportunity, he can go off. And maybe there is more of a split than anticipated. They had talked about it last year before the year. It just didn't pan out. Pollard was running well. Spears dealt with some injuries as well.
They told us, I think that coaching staff told us this season going into it, they reportedly that they see this as a committee. I think either one needs one to miss time. That's what we saw with Tajay Spears's or Tony Pollard, excuse me, his biggest games last season. They came without Tajay Spears, and kind of vice versa there. So again, draft or pass presented here by Premier National Sports. It's time for the water cooler. We're heading there next. You already know what time it is. Time for that fantasy life water cooler, going through all the news, the pieces of news that you might have missed here in the first hour, making sure you know all the training camp notes, and of course, getting to your phone calls and questions here. 888-963-2682 is the phone number to call in, or you can press that new call in button on the Sirius XM app. You can find us at Valenzuela17 at Adam Ronis over there on X. I see a couple questions there too. So we will make sure to get to as many as we can, but make sure you're calling in. And as always, fantasylife.com. That is where we can also help you dominate your leagues this season. If you can't get through on the phone lines, if you don't have time to send us a question, head on over there, because those are the tools that we're using throughout this entire show. That ADP draft board, our rankings are updated every single day. We've got draft champions, so you can go into that mock draft simulator. You can sync your leagues and make sure you're dominating for 2025. So fantasylife.com. Make sure you use that code SXM20 as well. That gets you 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 subscription. The best ball HQ, Adam, the utilization suite, it's all right there. So we're ready. It's August 1st. It's Friday. Also, congratulations, everyone. You have made it. You are so close to the weekend, and it's draft season, Adam. It's a great time.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we've been doing a lot of best balls and some redraft leagues, but now it really kicks up. And
Yep.
this month will just be full of drafts and leading up into the season. So every year I'm like, yeah, I'm going to try and cut back. And then every day you wind up adding more. And then it's like, oh boy, now I got 15 to 20 and I got to do all
Yep.
these waiver wires. So, but it's fun,
We love it.
except for Tuesday, Wednesday night.
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesdays. Yeah, that's why you're cranky in the mornings on Wednesday. You have to stay up and do your waiver wire stuff. It's okay. We're all there. I get it. But it is draft season. We're excited to have you with us here. Again, the call-in number 888-963-2682. Let's go through the news that we talked about in the top of the hour, top of the show here. Just with Terry McLaurin requesting a trade from the Washington Commanders. This is more when we talked about it, Adam. Looks like a frustration. It shows how far apart these two sides are. But Terry McLaurin, per Adam Schefter yesterday, did request a trade, and it looks like it's one of those situations where he held out for the first 4 days of training camp, and then he reported on Sunday there's been no movement towards a new deal, per Adam Schefter as well. He signed the 3-year deal in 2022, had an average of 22.7 million annually, and we know what he brought to this team last season. He was a huge part of it with Jaden Daniels. That connection looked great. We're not necessarily, you and I have talked, we're not necessarily worried about this because most of the time with these trade requests, hopefully they just go ahead and pay him. But does this make you move him down your boards at all? If people are drafting this weekend, Terry McLaurin pops up as a potential receiver that they can take. Are you trying to go a different direction?
I generally have so far. Nothing to do with the contract. Just we saw 13 touchdowns last year, and he was basically middle wide receiver 2 in points per game. So it's difficult to expect that many touchdowns again. Maybe you see an increase in targets, but yeah, to me, he's more late 4th round at this point. So if he's there, then I'll consider him.
Yeah, he scored a touchdown, 13 touchdowns on it with a touchdown per route rate of 2.4% last season. Just to give some context, that's about 3 times what we saw over his previous 3 seasons. It was 0.6%, 0.9%, 0.9%. It was a huge, crazy uptick. But again, you have Jaden Daniels there. So that's him playing without a good quarterback. So I see the other side of people saying, well, it's not going to be too much regression because now he's playing with a good quarterback. And I do see that side of it.
Yeah, look, he could score 8, 9 touchdowns, and that would be a fine season. And maybe you see an increase in targets, maybe more receptions, a few more yards as well. I mean, generally, he's been in the same area every single year when it comes to receptions and yards. It's almost a mirror image every single year, and it's just the touchdowns that have been the difference. And then last year with Daniels at quarterback, he was able to score a lot of touchdowns. You just want to see a little bit more consistency. There's some games where he kind of just disappears. You're sitting there,
Yeah.
you're like, how did he have 2 catches for 17 yards? So that's the one thing you would like to see change. And it was what's the crazy part is he had his best quarterback, but it was the fewest targets he's had since his rookie year.
How many did he have?
117.
Mm. And we're projecting him for 113 this year. Uh,
That
with
does that include him
75.
missing games because of the contract dispute?
I think when I talk, actually, so no, not in that way, but I think Dwayne does account for in these projections when you're looking, that he does account for maybe a game or two missed depending on
Yeah,
who the
which
player
is
is.
fair. Yeah.
So yeah, like I think he usually does 16 games is what these projections are based off of. And then obviously if they stay healthy the whole season, that's even better, but that's
Yeah,
how he has
McLaurin's
them.
played every game the last 4 years
Yeah,
too.
he's been yeah, durable for sure. So we'll just have to see. But yeah, 113 targets, 75 receptions, 1044 receiving yards, and then 8 receiving touchdowns, which is still not bad. I mean, it's just but yeah, it just comes down a little bit from the 13 with the 2.4% touchdown per route rate, which was crazy. Debo Samuel, since we're on the Commanders, are you back? I drafted a lot of Debo last season and it wasn't great. He had those injuries. He had pneumonia at some point last season. But he's coming back now. Wide receiver 37 going off the board on Underdog. Obviously a new team in the Washington Commanders. Should have obviously a role there. What are your expectations for him?
Yeah, originally I thought he was going to be going way higher. There was a point he was even higher than that. So I haven't been. I think I took him in one best ball because he really fell, but he's definitely not a target for me. I just worry about, he's older. He's always had to deal with a lot of injuries, and he's really only had one big fantasy season, right? So he's very physical the way he plays. Um, he's had one season in his career over 100 targets, and
Yep.
that was the career best season. Now, they probably are going to use him quite a bit. He'll fit in well. He'll get some of those wide receiver screens because they really need him. We talked about it looking at this depth chart. They really need him to play a part. So I'm not crossing him off my list, but he's not a target. He kind of has to
Okay.
fall where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it looks like he's the best player for
He's
me on the
there.
board. Yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully I'm not in that situation because you want to get guys that you want. You're
You
like, yeah,
do. You want to
can't
like your
wait for
team.
clicking this button. You don't want to be like, ah, damn,
Here's
what's
here's
left here?
Debo.
Yeah, I guess Debo.
You do want to like your team. I think that's rule number one, right? Of fan. Well, maybe not your rule number one, but definitely mine is that you want to walk away liking your team. I'll say Debo Samuel is not. I mean, if you're drafting even on Yahoo, he's pick 103, ESPN 110. Underdog, obviously those wide receivers get pushed up a little bit, but that puts him in the 6th round, I believe. Yeah, 6th round. So Jauan Jennings, Jordan Addison, Chris Olave, Jerry Judy as a range of those receivers. I agree with you. I've learned, hey, Debo Samuel's probably not going to give you what you want, but I think his ADP, I think that risk is baked in right now,
It is.
especially on other platforms. Like I understand you not wanting to take him, or just you being anyone in general not wanting to take him, but I'll tell you, if I get him in that range where it's ESPN and he's going pick 110, I'll probably actually take him if he falls to me that far. Just because I think that risk is there. And if he does have a solid enough season, and if he does actually stay healthy, you're looking at someone with, I think we have him projected for over 150 rushing yards and then 770 receiving yards. So it's not bad at
Yeah,
that
and
pick.
maybe he
At that
does
pick.
surprise us. I mean, rejuvenated. Maybe he comes healthy. We dealt with a few things last year, including the pneumonia. And there is that human element going to a new team, playing with a exciting young quarterback in Jaden Daniels, where maybe he just comes in and exceeds expectations.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. But again, we're looking at making sure we pay attention to the Terry McLaurin trade rumors, trade news, I should say, because he has requested a trade over there. Let's go over to, let's mention the ride or die from Matthew Berry. Matthew Berry yesterday was at the game, the Hall of Fame game, announced his ride or die is Omarion Hampton, which I kind of like. I said it at the
You
top of
didn't
the hour.
expect it.
I
Who
didn't
were you
expect
expecting? Did you have someone in mind?
I actually didn't have anyone in mind
Okay.
yet, and but I didn't expect a rookie. I'll say that. I didn't expect a rookie, and I really like it though. Omarion Hampton is someone we've talked a lot about. We've said he's, moving up in drafts because of the Najee Harris eye injury. There's still, again, I've seen no update or timeline on his return either. So Omarion Hampton, we've said he's explosive. He's workhorse. He's this workhorse capable running back that now is in this Greg Roman offense that we know they're going to want to run the ball a lot of the times that they can get the chance. And if it's Amari and Hampton, I think, at the start of the offseason, I was still drafting Najee Harris because we talk about durability. He's never missed a game. He's always got 1,000-yard seasons under his belt. So I thought that he would at least be involved until maybe midway through the season. Amari and Hampton gets his feet under him, gets up to game speed, all that stuff, and then he takes over that backfield. But now, when you don't have Najee Harris there at training camp, learning everything, learning about his new team. When he's not there and he's recovering from that eye injury, it's going to happen. When I say sooner rather than later, it might be week one, Adam, where we just see that from Omari and Hampton.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be that way right now. Again, there is time to go before the start of the season, so maybe Harris is back in a couple weeks, but the more time he misses in a new offense, the more it's going to just keep giving Hampton every opportunity to seize that backfield. And going in, we expected Hampton, even with Najee Harris there, most of us at some point, Hampton to take over that backfield, whether it was week 4 or at some point during the season. But
Yep.
now it just gives Hampton every opportunity to be the guy. And then when Najee Harris is ready, maybe he's more of the backup. We know Hampton is the better back. Najee Harris, again, does what is asked of him. Not an explosive back, not going to break long runs, just does little things which
Yeah.
coaches love. Fantasy players, we don't love it because we don't get those explosive plays that we want. Whereas Hampton, taken in the first round, running behind a really good offensive line on a team that wants to run the football, is just a really good spot. And there are people who drafted early who probably got nice value on him because he is going to be one of the guys that rises up draft boards a lot. I've already seen it. I've seen him
Yep.
go in the third round of drafts. Uh, and I think that's where he's going to wind up going. The longer that Harris remains out, and the more Hampton is going to rise up draft boards. So be prepared. If you really want him, you're going to have to spend on him. So I'm going to guess that in my league tomorrow, which is the flex league draft, one quarterback, I think he goes round 3. I'd say mid
Oh
to
yeah.
late round 3 is my guess.
I agree. If not, maybe if someone really likes him, and that's
Or
the
should
other
I
thing.
just or should I
Should you
just
just
take
take
him
him?
at 3-3?
Could be fun.
Yeah, right.
Maybe like you could
This
set it
way I could
up.
say I said it on Friday. He was going in the third round, and I
And I
was
was
right.
right. It was me. I think you could. Listen, we're not if you want to take Omari and Hampton in the third round, if you go get your guys, right? That's what we always say in these drafts. ADP is just a guide for you. And if you're what are you guys drafting on tomorrow? What platform?
Sleeper.
Sleeper. So he's going pick 39 on
39. Yeah,
Sleeper.
so if I want him, I have to take
You
him
have
in the
to.
early
He's not
third
coming.
round. He's
Oh
not
yeah,
going to
he's
make
not
it
coming
back.
back. There's not. It won't even be close. Lad McConkey's going pick 20. He's right there.
Yeah,
So yeah,
McCarthy
if you
will
do,
not even make it to me.
no, no chance. You can take him with your with your third overall pick. Could be fun. I'm sure
Yeah,
nothing could
that'll
go wrong
definitely
with
get me
that.
headlines, right?
Yeah, right. Why not? Do
Then
it
I
for the
can get
Can you do it
interviewed
for
on
the
the radio.
content? Yeah, do it for the content. We'll have an interview with you exclusive on Monday to talk that out. All right, continuing on through the news. Again, we are in the water cooler. 888-963-2682 is the phone number to call in. We see you guys on hold. We are absolutely going to get to you. And I've got some questions that were sent in at Valenzuela 17, at Adam Ronis over there on X. Just the last big one that I saw yesterday, Jauan Jennings dealing with the same calf injury he had in the offseason. Not good news that was reported from, or Kyle Shanahan told reporters yesterday, dealing with a re-aggravation of the injury he dealt with during spring activities that kept him out of OTAs. We know that he's not, I believe, returning this week, but they are trying to say that this is minor and that we should not worry. But at some point, Adam, I think we do have to be a little bit concerned here because I texted you. I said, do you think this is an actual calf injury, or he is also someone that wants, a new deal? And so I said, is this, making sure that he doesn't actually get hurt in practice? But he was already practicing. He was never holding in. So that's the thing that's most concerning with this Jauan Jennings calf injury right now. At least a re-aggravation, so it's not a new one, but still something we have to monitor.
Yeah, look, it's better for any of these injuries to happen now. We're here. It's August 1st. We still have 5 weeks till the first Thursday game. Less than 5 weeks now, but 5 weeks from Sunday, first NFL Sunday. So there is time, but it is a little bit of a concern that he has aggravated it again, and calf injuries are very tricky. So they're going to be cautious with this, and you'll probably see him move down the draft board just a little bit. Maybe Ricky Pearsall passes him.
Are you moving him down the ranks because of this news? That's what I was going back and forth on last night, looking at my rankings.
Not yet. Maybe a receiver or two at this point.
Yeah.
But not yet.
We're trying not to overreact. Like you said, we've got weeks to go. At least, we never want injuries, but again, re-aggravation is better than getting a new one on, the other side there. So Jauan Jennings still in our projections is still looking like he's going to have most of the workload. Ricky Pearsall was back this week. Got no update yet on Brandon Ayuk, and if he is going to be good to at least, participate in training camp or start the season. So that's one we're also looking out for. But yeah, if you're drafting again, you'll see this news. But Jauan Jennings dealing with the same calf injury he had during the offseason. I've got a keeper question here, though, at Valenzuela 17, at Adam Ronis over there on X. Keeper question, keep one. Josh Allen in the 4th, Jordan Mason in the 12th, or Michael Penix Jr. in the 15th?
It's not Penix for sure.
No, it's not.
I don't know if this is super flex. Boy, this is Allen in the 4th is really not a value. Mason in the 12th is actually a value, but do we want to keep Jordan Mason when we probably can get him back in the draft?
Yeah.
Because we've talked about it with Paul Charchian, and it's also being reported that this is going to be more of a timeshare than we think. You want to lighten the workload on Aaron Jones coming off a career high in touches at age 30. They know, and we saw he was not very efficient, especially near the goal line. So Mason's going to play a bigger role. So it's Allen or Mason. Do you feel comfortable keeping Mason in the 12th, or would you just take Allen in the 4th?
I think I would just take Allen in the 4th.
Yeah,
but
I can see it.
And I like Mason. That's the thing. I like Mason, but I don't know if I like him enough.
Right, to
because
keep.
that is the value, and that's what we always look for. And then Michael Penix, maybe he surprises us this season, but that's why we're not necessarily looking at him. It's just that's not worth it. And you can get him back. But Jordan Mason, like Paul Charchian believes that he's actually just going to be the lead back to start things off. And if that's the case, then yes, that is the value pick. But I just still think that Aaron Jones is going to be obviously a focal point of that offense. We talked with Kevin O'Connell about that last season during the Super Bowl, which was super fun. So I would keep Josh in the 4th in that one.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. We got to remember too, in some of these home leagues, Josh Allen might go in the 2nd round.
Yeah, you're right. One more here, looking over there on X again. If you guys want to call in 888-963-2682, or you can press that new call in button on the Sirius XM app. Got a keeper question here from Mitch. 1 point PPR, Kyren Williams or Puka Nacua for a 12th?
Yeah, I'm going with Puka here. I know Williams has been ridiculous the last 2 years. The efficiency did go down last year, but he stayed healthy. They did draft another running back, but Puka is going pretty much in the 1st round of every draft. And the only thing that we need to see from Puka is more touchdowns. That's the only thing that he's lacking. But when he was on the field last year, puts up insane numbers every game. And we know how the Rams offense operates, getting the ball to those wide receivers. So Puka in the 12th.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I don't not like Kyren Williams. He's delivered what he's given us 21.4, 17.4 points per game over the last 2 seasons. Yards per carry took a dip last season, Adam, went from 5.1 to 4.1. And then we saw the Rams add a running back in the middle rounds during the NFL draft. I believe it was round 4 for Jarquez Hunter. So we're still looking at that, but I prefer, to go the other direction with Puka Nacua in that one. All right. Appreciate everyone either calling in or sending us your messages. Continue to do so. We're going to try to get to as many as we can today. We're going to continue on though, Adam. We have to talk through fantasy draft strategies. I've gotten this message a lot going into this week. So want to talk to you about, different formats, different scoring settings, and our favorite ways to draft based on what those are. We're going to go through fantasy draft strategies here coming up next. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you on this Friday. Congratulations, you have made it. Can't go home yet, though, Adam. We got to wait till lunchtime. Then you just go to lunch and don't come back. Maybe you and Ani should get lunch today.
What if you didn't eat breakfast? Then what? Can you leave earlier?
Go for brunch. Go for a brunch.
Okay.
Oh, breakfast sounds amazing, doesn't it? Pancakes, French toast.
Damn, now you make me want to have
brown.
that. Yeah, I haven't had pancakes in a second. It's
Wow.
been a couple
Well, since
weeks.
you saw Nando last, huh?
No, we don't eat pancakes afternoon. It's prohibited. I disagree. Can't eat
You and I,
pancakes after 11 a.m. Eastern. Who does that? He
you and
really
Ani need a
believes that,
breakfast.
which is
I know,
insane.
which is crazy. You know what the best thing to have? Well, I don't. It's not often, but breakfast for dinner is top 10.
I don't do that really,
Really?
but more so like at 1, 2, 3 a.m. Like if you're
Like a
out and then
Waffle
you
Waffle
say,
House?
yeah, or
Yeah.
well, that's what I did in Canton when I was out there for
Amazing.
the Fantasy Football Expo. That was it was always Waffle House like after midnight because nothing else was open anyway over there.
Hey, that's what you have to do.
And I don't
On
get Waffle House much. There's no Waffle House by me.
Same here. Same here.
Oh, same for
I'm with
you?
you. Yeah, I don't. There's not. I don't think there's any near me. But yeah, breakfast for. I don't know how we got here, but
I don't know.
we're
You
here.
steer the ship. I
No,
just
I
follow
know. I
you.
don't know.
Can't
Oh,
blame me for any of this.
we were talking about leaving for lunch, leaving after lunch. You said, "What if I
Yeah,
didn't have
because
breakfast?" There we go.
you're
Okay.
you're getting people to
Yeah, to leave work.
break rules.
Exactly. It's summer Friday. Summer Fridays. You just head on out afterwards. We're talking fantasy football strategies. I promise here. So, Adam, I've gotten this message a couple times going into our shows over the last couple of days of just draft strategies, and I know we've talked through some of them, right? We've talked through the zero RB strategy. We've talked through hero RB, super flex, or even robust running back, elite tight ends. There's all these different strategies, but I kind of want to ask, based on format, which direction you usually like to go or how you like to build your teams out of the first 5, 6 rounds. So let's start with the format that I think is standard set for the majority of leagues. I know we're going to be different, but it's the 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. That's the format that a lot of people, it's default, I believe, on Yahoo and ESPN, for that scoring in a 12-team format. And so when you look at this, I'm still looking for my guidelines. If I'm in one of these leagues with a format of 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, I'm still focusing on wide receiver and running backs in those first 3 rounds. These are usually the ones where I will not go and get my George Kittles. Usually, I just don't usually take a tight end or a quarterback in those first 3 rounds. But I'm making sure you can either go that hero RB approach, zero RB approach if you want. That I'm getting those at least 2 wide receivers coming out of those first 3 rounds.
Yeah, and I wish people would change and increase the starting lineups, but I understand that's what some people do. They go by the default of the site and only do 2 receivers and 1 flex. It's just a smaller starting lineup. And especially if you're listening to this channel, you're on fantasylife.com, you're going to get some really good values late. And you want to be able to start those players instead of having those points rot on the bench. And also trying to make tough decisions every week where unfortunately you're going to get it wrong, right? You can
Yeah.
have the perfect strategy and the explanation makes sense, and you're going to have a player on your bench outscore your starting lineup. So I do think you want to increase the starting lineup if possible. If not, in this format though, I do think it's easier to take the elite tight end early. Get yourself that advantage at that position because you only need 1 flex and you're only starting 2 wide receivers. Because for me, the wide receiver depth really dries up like in round 6,
Yep.
because we know that the guys who earn the most targets and have the biggest target shares, they're all going early. You could just look at last year and look at the finishes in wide receivers. There weren't really anyone who was going in the double digit rounds. Like all these guys were going in the first 4 to 5 rounds for the most part, right? I think Brian Thomas was round 8, round 9. Okay, that was a rookie, right? That some people just weren't high on or were worried about the offense. We knew the talent was there, but you rarely see those wide receivers come from the double digit rounds break into the top 15, top 20. So that's why I think you want to try and get those wide receivers early if you can. But again, if I'm starting just 2 receivers and a flex, I think it makes it more appealing to take that elite tight end
Elite tight end.
because it gives you such an advantage if they pan out. So that's the way I look at it there. And I think also you can be more flexible. You can go 2 running backs in that format to start. I think it's difficult looking at some of the builds that people have put forth. When you start 2 running backs in the league with 3 receivers and a flex, your wide receivers, like the three, the
The
flex
talent goes
don't look
way
as good.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you, and I understand that some people really do like to go that route and get those two. If you draft 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds, you don't have to go back for a really long time. And I get that. But you've mentioned how the tiers of wide receivers, it falls off really quickly. I would even say, depending on where you draft, sometimes the fifth round, I'm
Yeah,
looking around and
underdog, yeah,
saying,
because the
and I'm
receivers go
looking
early.
around and I'm like, ugh, I don't necessarily love anyone in this range. We can
And then
skip
you
the
like a
fifth
lot of the
round.
running backs
Yes,
after.
exactly. Exactly. That's why, and the tight end conversation is, I can see where you're coming from because you get projected fantasy points like Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, George Kittle are all projected for 168, 170, 190 projected fantasy points. And then if you don't get any of those elite tight ends, you go and you say, okay, well, now I'm just going to wait because the guys in the middle, from Mark Andrews going projected tight end 7 fantasy finish at 136, like Tucker Craft is 10th at 119. So there's not like fantasy point differences. Obviously, it's different from the top because you're not getting 190 from Brock Bowers. But I can see your point of wanting to just, hey, get that elite tight end and then go with your receivers as well.
Yeah, there was a gap in PPR of 5 points per game between Kittle, Bowers, McBride, and then even Kelsey, Andrews, Laporta. So doesn't mean it's going to happen again this year, but it goes to show you how. And remember, Bowers didn't score a lot of touchdowns. I think he had 5. McBride had 2.
Yep.
So there's a chance, even if you say, well, they're not going to get that target share again, which with McBride, it's difficult not to see occurring again, especially if you think the Cardinals offense can get better with Kyler Murray improving a little bit because they didn't do much to bring in anyone to take away from McBride. Bowers, it's a little bit more competition, but they're going to get him the football. Ashton Shetty obviously is there, and that's going to increase the running game, and he's going to be involved in the pass game. But you got to think that Bowers is just so good, they're going to get him the football. So, and those tight ends last year, they would have, in points per game at receiver, they would have been 15th, 16th, that area. So you're talking third round, maybe for one of those tight ends. McBride has fall to the third. I think again with 2 receivers and 1 flex, I think it's easier to take them. It fits the build more.
3 wide receivers, 1 flex. That's usually what we're talking about here when you say, hey, if you're in 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, maybe change it. 3 wide receiver makes it. I just love that format personally. That's where I go at them when I'm looking at those kinds of builds. That's where I'll push the boundaries on quarterbacks and tight ends. I'll rarely take that elite quarterback in the Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jacksons. I'll rarely take them in that range because I think there is value outside of those, top 5 guys. Well, the top 5 guys, you're never going to have to worry about them. We've talked about the Drake Mays this season, the potential Trevor Lawrences, the JJ McCarthys. It is riskier, but in this kind of format where you're starting 3 wide receivers, 1 flex, this season I've gone more of a hero RB approach. I am anchoring my team to 1 running back. Elite has to be elite in the first 2 rounds. And when I say elite, it's 300 plus touch upside. It's these guys and in good offenses. So it's the Saquons, it's the Bijan Robinsons of the world, Jameer Gibbs. You have to get this elite running back because it doesn't count when you go into the 3rd round and you're looking and you're saying, well, I've got, my hero RB with Brees Hall. It's not the same. And so you want to get that elite guy that has 300 plus touch upside. And then I come back and I just focus on those wide receivers because as much as we always say it, we want to make sure people understand that the talent drop off for those wide receivers comes quickly. And then all of a sudden you're looking around and you're saying, ugh, I don't know if I want Deebo Samuel, Jordan Addison, or Jauan Jennings, Chris Olave. I don't love anyone in this range. So making sure you get those wide receivers when you're starting 3 and have a flex, I think is super important.
I think it's also important to be flexible. You can come in with a plan like you just had. That's the blueprint that you illustrated. But if everyone has that same mentality, then you're going to get value somewhere. It happened to me 2 years ago in a league where we start 3 receivers and 2 flex spots. And I already know in that league, people really wait on quarterback. Like it's extreme. So I know that going in, but it got to the end of round 5 and Jalen Hurts was there. And I was like,
Wow.
I cannot
Have to
pass
do
on him at
this.
this point.
Yeah.
And it actually wound up being one of my best teams. Like
No
obviously
kidding.
you still need to hit on the other players though, right? You could have get Hurts around end of round 5. He has a great year, finishes QB1, but if the rest of the team isn't good, and it's not going to help you out. But the point is just you do need to be flexible. You can go in with a plan, but that plan can quickly change based on what's going on in the draft board. And I think that's where one of the biggest mistakes drafters make. They're so, you hear it, people call, okay, so I'm going to take this guy in round 1. Who do I take in round 2 and round 3? We can tell you based on ADP who we think is going to be there. But if you go in with that mindset and you're so fixated on getting those targets,
Mhm.
you might be blind to what's going on around you. And that cannot happen. That's, I think, the most successful drafters just look at what's going on around them, and if value falls and they're high on that player, you take them, and maybe you deviate from what the initial plan was. But I do agree, generally in these leagues where you start three receivers in a flex, it's important to get those receivers early. If you want to take a running back in the first two rounds, you can still build a good team. And then,
Yeah.
maybe you hammer receiver, but it does dry up pretty quickly. So I want to get those receivers early, because I like a lot of the running backs that we're getting. And some of them don't have big roles to begin the year. They might be in timeshares, but at some point this season, it looks like they can emerge, or injuries are going to happen. I know it didn't happen a lot last year at the running back position, and we would all love that to repeat, but it's unlikely to happen. So I want to have those running backs. Also, too, when you do the heavy receiver build with the running back, if you're going to be weak anywhere, in my mind, I'd rather it be RB2, because I can just
Yes.
take a
Yep.
bunch of shots with different running backs, and I really just need one of them to pan out. And as much as the early running backs returned tremendous value last year, even if you employed the strategy we're referring to with going the receivers early, now if you had Rasheed Rice, Chris Godwin, and Chris Olave,
Yeah.
yeah, you were sunk, but that was injuries. You still could have gotten Chase Brown in round 7 or 8. You could have gotten Bucky Irving later, and you would have had to wait on Irving a little bit. But there were guys. It wasn't as fruitful as other years, but you still could have made that build work if you avoided all of the receiver injuries. There were still running backs that you could have gotten in round 8 and on that really were really good for fantasy. I mean, Chua Hubbard as well.
Oh
Remember,
yeah.
he was going uh, late because people thought Brooks was going to come back and be the guy.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's why it is important. And you're right. And we say this a lot too. We'd rather, we're taking shots, later round shots. That's why we always talk about late round running backs that we like to target, because their path to potential fantasy football success is a lot easier than some of these other wide receivers that are buried down depth charts. That's why we've been talking about, the Brashard Smiths of the world. We've talked about Tajay Spears. All right, now that Zach Moss is gone, let me take a shot, because again, you're not spending that much on them. So you look around and you say, okay, obviously you're going to get, there's elite guys at the top. But yeah, the back half of the draft, especially this season, Adam, where we heard so much time and time again going into the NFL draft, how deep this rookie running back class was. It's like, okay, if one of these guys in one of your teams can really take over a backfield, or at least have some standalone value, that's going to pay dividends for you in your fantasy leagues. And we saw it. You mentioned it. We saw it last season. That's why we saw it with quarterbacks. We saw it with a lot of the running backs stayed healthy last season, but that doesn't normally happen. And so that's why we always like to look at some later round running backs. We still take shots, obviously, on wide receivers in that range, but hopefully you're set at receiver, and that's when you can take those sleeper running backs that hopefully pan out.
Yeah, it's just you don't see it as often with those receivers in the double digit rounds that break their way into the top 20. I mean, we saw Puka Nakua in his rookie year, but that's kind of an outlier. And if you just look at last year, the top 20 receivers in points per game in PPR formats, there's no one in there that was taken in double digit
No,
rounds. They
we
were
didn't we didn't
all,
have one.
it was all early. I think from what I see, the guy that went the latest was Brian Thomas, and that was seventh, eighth round, and that was a rookie. So
Yep.
we pretty much know who commands the biggest target shares, and those guys tend to go in the first 4 to 5 rounds of drafts. That's why we emphasize taking those receivers early in formats where you're starting three wide receivers.
We'll continue going through draft strategies as the weeks go on. I know that we've got questions for, Superflex. Who are our favorite guys to target in Superflex, all these other ones. So we're going to make sure we keep doing that, cuz we know it's draft season, Adam. It's time to go. We're locked in. Fantasylife.com as well. We've got great articles on just draft strategies and tips in general. If you want to keep diving into that. So fantasylife.com, use that code SXM20, gets you 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 subscription at checkout. We're going to go through Mike's hard reach of the week. It is that time. We are going through players that we have reached for this week in drafts. We're going to give you those names here coming up next. This is Fantasy Life right here. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you, going through Mike's hard reach of the week. Because we already know, Adam, draft season is here. We don't want to play it safe. We want to reach for our guys. We always say we want to like our teams and our players at the end of the day. And so the guys that we are reaching for, that's what we're talking about here, presented by Mike's Hard, going through the guys that we think, are going to outperform their ADPs. I actually went chalk on this one this week. Because it's just guys that sometimes at the top we don't go in depth on the guys taken in the top three rounds of drafts, because we just know the production that they're going to give us and everything like that. But it doesn't mean we don't need to talk about them, because I know a lot of people always ask what should we do with our this second pick, this third pick. So let me go over to Bucky Irving for you. Reach of the week presented by Mike's Hard. Bucky Irving, and I'm curious if you've been reaching for him. He's going usually I just had this. He's going in the second round, towards the end of the second round, near that 2-3 turn. But Bucky Irving, we know what he did last season. He averaged 14.2 points per game as a rookie, but he took over that backfield down the stretch, and that was the big thing that we were kind of waiting on. After the week 11 bye, he became the obvious number one option in Tampa, and then in 7 healthy games through the wild card, he averaged 19.3 points per game, took 62% of the snaps, 60% of the attempts, and then attempts inside the 5-yard line, it was 100%, Adam. So we know what he did last season. The question is, what's the workload going to look like this year?
Yeah, and also can the efficiency return as well? 5.4 yards per carry. That was, among the best for running backs. First in yards after contact per attempt. So forced a lot of missed tackles. I guess the biggest concern, obviously, he's not the biggest back. The injury history as well. He played every game last year, but there were several injuries, hamstring, back. So that's something to be concerned about. But it's difficult to envision them not giving him a big workload again after what they saw last year. And, Rachaad White's still there, but, we saw his role diminish. You also have all of those pass catchers as well. Another coaching change for the offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen going off to Jacksonville. Josh Grizzard taking over. He was the team's passing game coordinator last year, so you would think that they keep the offense the same. So the biggest question is, can his body hold up being the lead back? That's the only question that I have, because, again, didn't miss games, but was banged up with several injuries.
I think he can. I'm just going to put that out into the universe. I think so. I think my, the bigger questions for me are not necessarily with Bucky, because I think he's a priority target if we're looking at that 2-3 turn. But because when I look at him too, I think, okay, what happens if he does take over more of that passing down work? What could that bring for him? That's RB1 overall upside. We're not saying he will be the overall RB1, but it's the upside that we like. I'm worried, we just have to watch for, they might not have Tristan Wirfs for the early part of the year. I do think that's a big deal when we talk about offensive line. They still project as a top 6 unit over at PFF, but that's when they're healthy. So when they're healthy, it's top 6. I am watching out for this Tristan Wirfs injury, because we've talked already about, the just Bucks projected regression overall. And so if it's Tristan Wirfs not being there and that offensive line not being fully healthy to start the season, I do think that could, impact players, not just Baker Mayfield, who we already said maybe is going to come back down, but they're still projected from our projections at fantasylife.com. They still rank 10th in projected touchdowns at 43 overall. So I'm okay with it, but that Tristan Wirfs knee injury is not a great way to start, but I do still like Bucky Irving.
Yeah, that is absolutely something to keep an eye on, because that could really hurt this offense in a big way. So you have to hope that he misses the minimum time, because he is extremely valuable to that offense.
Going through another Mike's Hard Reach of the week. We haven't talked about JJ McCarthy in a while. Feel like it's time to remind the people, out of everyone, about JJ McCarthy and why we like him, because it's another O'Connell quarterback that we say, hey, he's the quarterback whisperer. When I looked at this offense, Adam, and I said, all right, they felt comfortable enough to let Sam Darnold go. And that, I think, is obviously indicative of what JJ McCarthy can bring to this team in 2025. So we've seen what O'Connell can do with Kirk Cousins, with Sam Darnold. Do you think McCarthy is the next guy, the next quarterback that he can make fantasy relevant?
Yeah, he's done it with everyone, so I don't think we're at the point
now.
Yeah, I don't think we could doubt him anymore. I mean, Sam Darnold last year was like QB9 in points per game. Think about that, Sam Darnold. So, yes, he was not good towards the end of the season, but that's different when it comes to playoff pressure and all that. But for the whole season, Darnold was really good for fantasy. Like, it's just set up with all these weapons here: Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hockenson, the backfield with Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, offensive line. It's just all there. So McCarthy just has to do his part. He can run a little bit too. So
Yeah.
absolutely, and he's cheap. Even if you are a fan of McCarthy, like, you're generally getting him as your QB2. And, especially if you wait on quarterback, you get him. Maybe you pair him with someone safer, and it gets to the point where McCarthy does deliver on what we expect. You can start him every week, and you might be able to cut that other quarterback unless you have a very deep league where you have the roster space. But yeah, I think you have to feel optimistic with everything that O'Connell has done, his history of quarterbacks, and the surrounding weapons. So yes, I will be having JJ McCarthy on my teams.
Yeah, he is a great sleeper pick at quarterback. If go and look at him, you're not going to be impressed by his ADP because he's going late, and that's why we call him a sleeper pick. But he's more athletic than the Sam Darnold's, Kirk Cousins that we talked about. That Kevin O'Connell was able to produce good fantasy numbers. He's got an elite. I mean, the supporting cast too. We have to talk about. With Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. We still don't know the suspension that could come down for him, but still, T.J. Hockenson coming off and hopefully fully healthy going into this season. So it's going to be good for JJ McCarthy. That's why we are always reaching for him, because we want to make those bold calls just like we do with Mike's Hard Lemonade. So that was the Mike's Hard Reach of the week. We're trying to be bold, risky. That's what we're going to do, at least for JJ McCarthy. That's how we're going to go. We're going to continue on here. I've got some stats from last season, Adam. I want to know if you think that the trends continue with Patrick Mahomes with the Bears. We're going to go through those names and stats coming up next. It's Friday. It's August 1st, Adam. We're having a great day. It's draft season. We had a football game yesterday. How could it get better? You're drafting tomorrow. You're going to be live on the radio again. The people want more Adam Ronis, and they're getting more Adam Ronis this weekend. I love it.
Yeah, 2 broadcasts tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern for the first one. That'll be Jeff Ratcliffe, and then I'll be on at 1 p.m. Eastern. So I'll be drafting first and then broadcasting. So gotta have that energy, need that fuel. So Ani
Yes.
better bring me some coffee and breakfast.
Some breakfast. You need some breakfast tomorrow for
I
sure, though.
do. And the problem is
You can't not
I
eat.
usually don't feel like eating in the morning, but I need something for sure. I need, whether it's a bagel or something.
You do.
Can't go on
You're
empty
gonna run out
stomach. Need
of
some
you're gonna run
coffee.
out of energy. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can't do that.
definitely need some coffee.
Yeah. Maybe Ani will bring you some. Maybe you guys can make up and, go get
Yeah,
breakfast together.
we'll see.
Think about it.
I'll get there a little early, so if he's
All
around,
right.
maybe.
I love it. I love it. And I'm excited to see what your draft ends up looking at. I'm excited to see which quarterbacks you walk away with.
I will tell you this: we will not spend $40 on hot dogs like
Hey,
you did when you
watch
were in
out.
New York.
Watch it. Okay. It just seemed right at the time.
Right.
I'm in the center, I'm in the middle of Times Square. I don't know what's going on. I'm overstimulated. It was hot. Yeah, it's okay. Shout out to the expense
Yeah, if you ever
reports
run
after
into
that.
Kendall in person, just automatically become someone that sells something on the street, jack up the
I'll be like, oh
prices,
my
you're gonna
gosh.
profit. She'll pay you whatever.
To be fair, it was not just one hot dog. It was 2 hot dogs and a
Okay.
calzone or something like that. I
You don't
even
even know what
know.
it was. You just like,
No,
yeah,
it
here,
was for other
$40
people.
here, take my card.
I was trying to be nice. I was, buying things for other
New
people.
York is not the place to be nice.
No kidding. That's why I could never survive it. Could you imagine me? You just told me that you were sick a couple minutes ago and I believed you. You were
Yeah.
like, "No, I'm not." I couldn't survive. Just couldn't do it. All right, I just wanted to go through just one or a couple pieces of stats here that I saw from last season. Curious if you think that the trends continue, and we can go rapid fire. Baker Mayfield has thrown for 4,000 yards both seasons in Tampa Bay. Does that happen in 2025?
Yeah, even if you expect some regression, I think 4,000 yards with the array of weapons he has, yeah, 4,000 yards should be attainable for him.
I think so too. Projected right now 3,980 with how many touchdowns do we have him? 13 interceptions and then 29 touchdowns
29.
this
Okay.
season. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that
not
would
bad.
be
It's
big
not
drop
bad.
off from 41 though. But
That's
28 is what he
still
had. 28 is what he had in his first year with Tampa.
that still projects out as a QB8 finish though, technically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you're drafting him at his potential ceiling
That's
right
what
now.
I don't like.
That's what he's really expensive this season. All right, this one I know you're going to like. Patrick Mahomes hasn't been a top 10 quarterback since 2022. Does the trend continue or does he crack the top 10 in fantasy this season?
I want to say yes emphatically, but then you have the potential Rice suspension, Xavier Worthy with a concussion, Hollywood Brown got banged up. But with that said, I'm going to say yes. They open up the
Yes.
offense
Love
more,
it.
and we see them put up a lot of points, and the passing yards and touchdowns go up for Mahomes.
They just need to get back to those explosive ways, but it's hard to do that when you don't have a fully healthy receiving room. And so the big thing that we're waiting on is the Rashi Rice suspension. I mean, if it's 2 games, then you're going to look around and say, okay, if
I would be
people,
stunned if
I
it
would
was
be
2
shocked.
games.
Are you thinking 4?
4
Or are
at
you thinking
least. Yeah.
6?
I think 4 at least would be my
Yeah.
guess.
Um, yeah, they need to get back to being explosive. Xavier Worthy needs to, have that momentum that we saw towards the end of the season and be able to do that, bring it into the 2025 year. But I want to agree with you on that one. Mahomes will be a top 10 quarterback this season. 2022, can you believe that? That's the last time.
Yeah, it's the receiving core just hasn't been there for him.
Crazy. Crazy. Bears haven't had a 4,000-yard passer. Yes or no? Caleb Williams. This is it.
Yes.
Yes.
Finally.
Look at that. Optimism from Adam on a Friday. That's when you know it's Friday. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. fantasylife.com. That's where you can go and sign up for that newsletter. Use that code SXM20 gets you 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 subscription. We'll see you same time Monday.